Hi, welcome to Grat's Guide to Anything. In the second video, we're going to do a deep dive into what we did last video. So, if what we covered is all you wanted to know at the moment, skip the video, not worth it. Well, let's start by restating our learning objectives. By the end of this session, you'll be able to initialize a game instance in Roll20. Right, let's begin. Let's start with what an instance is in Roll20. You create an environment for you and for others to play something in. Using the Roll20 environment, an instance is a set of pages holding the information that you need. This will include maps, non-player characters, player characters, monsters, reference information, etc. Everything that you need to play this game online in Roll20 is gathered all together in one game. This set of information becomes a game within Roll20. Everything you do, mark, change will stay with the set, even the chat logs. Now, if you wanted to run two groups of the same module, I'd set up one complete set just the way you'd like it, with everything except the player characters in it. Then copy this set as a new game, giving it a name that makes sense for this group, and then add the players. You can keep copying this game as many times as you want, once for each group of players. Just give each game a unique name. There are two limitations with how many times you can copy this. One limitation you will have is how many licenses you're allowed when you try to share your compendium. This is part of the licensing for the Roll20 account and the books you purchase with your Roll20 account through the marketplace. If you start running low, remember that you don't have to allocate a license for the master copy of a module, just the copies that currently have players. The second limitation is how much storage space you have. Again, this is based on the type of Roll20 account that you have. Right, well, let's start with the name. Since once you have the player characters and everything in a game, it's easier to change the module than to move the players. Name the game after your players. Is this the group that meets every Monday night to play and drink beer? Then call it something like Monday Night Beer Fest. You want the name to stick around with this group for a while, so stay away from the module and other things that'll change over time. Although you can always rename the game. Well, we've covered name, let's talk about tags. You don't actually need them. The only purpose they play is to help you find the game you are after. The more games you have, the more you will find them useful. Therefore, it's best to get into the habit of putting them in now, rather than waiting and discovering too late that you really should have used them. So use tags that make sense. I use, well, for the first tag, D&D. This is what I will use to reflect Dungeons and Dragons. Second tag I add, 5e. This is 5th edition. So these two tags allow me to filter my games based upon the game and the rule set. Third tag I use, Tower-Games. I like to put this in to point out my sponsor, Tower Games in Windsor, New South Wales. Note that a space starts a new tag, so if I want to use multiple words in the tag, I use a minus instead of a space. There are no other characters you could use instead. Fourth tag, I like to put the module in here. So for me it will be escape minus from minus dirge minus mine. Remember, use the minus instead of space. And yes, this does mean I have to change this tag every time I change the module, but that doesn't happen all that often. So what other tags might you want to use? If you have a few different organizations that you GM for, you may want to add a tag to indicate which organization is associated with a game. Again, if you have completely different audiences, you may want to filter based on content, you know, G, PG, MA, whatever helps you to quickly find the game you need to find. Next we have the character sheet. This bit of a long one. What Roll20 has done to support all the various games is to use different character sheets for each version of each game. So you will find all sorts of character sheets because Roll20 supports all sorts of games. Let's narrow things down just to Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. There's still a dozen odd different sheets available. So there are two main character sheets I want to look at, plus there's an additional stack of them that we won't look at. These others support a whole range of things such as alternate languages, alternate rule sets, etc. In fact, if you don't like the provided ones, you can make your own. Full instructions are on the Roll20 site about how to do this, but I really recommend that you don't, at least until you're quite familiar with the Roll20 environment. So the two that I'm going to look at are D&D 5e by Roll20 and D&D 5e bracket shaped close bracket. The first one that I suggest you use is the official one provided by Roll20. So this means this is the official one. This one should be the first updated with changes. Its structure reflects the official rules. This one supports the built-in Charactermancer character generator. This is the one that I use for all of these videos as my players are mostly new to D&D. This does not automate well. So macros used with this version of the character sheet will tend to be more complicated and have to be more manually customized. Because of that last point, a number of members on the Roll20 community got together and created a character sheet that is macro friendly. This is the D&D 5e bracket shaped close bracket character sheet. So it's a second commonly used character sheet that has been set up by some of the user community to try and make life easier for the Games Master. It forces some logic to the way the character sheet is built, making macros easier. It currently does not support the Charactermancer, but you could start a campaign, use the Charactermancer to create the initial characters, then change the campaign settings to this character sheet, run a convert on all the characters your players have built. You would, however, lose the ability to use the Charactermancer to level up. If you have experienced players who enjoy the actual character creation process, you may want to use this sheet instead. Please note, however, different APIs may only support certain character sheets. If you have your heart set on a particular automation tool, you'll need to confirm which character sheets those tools support. Now, this sort of touches on another point. If you as GM for an experienced group where each one is responsible for their own books, etc., you can drop the whole issue and also the requirements around the DM starter pack. It then becomes the player's responsibility to have all the details to hand of their spells, their abilities, etc., instead of being able to use your licenses to look stuff up. This would greatly increase the number of simultaneous games that you can have. Lastly, I'd like to talk about the module. First surprising bit of information, you actually don't need to specify one. You can have a standalone instance where you load in any maps you need, load any information required, etc. to run your campaign. I'm just assuming that most of you to start with will want to use a pre-made campaign until you get used to the Roll20 platform. Really, it's worth buying one just so you can get an understanding of what you need to create for your own campaign. You can browse the marketplace from this window, not the most optimal way of doing it. You can also go to the marketplace using the menus at the top of the Roll20 screen and browse, search to your heart's content. Any module on that right hand side that has a tick in it when you point to it, this indicates you already own it and it's available for use. Any module that has an image of a shopping cart in it, you can purchase from the marketplace by clicking on it. There's also a button down the bottom of the list that says more modules. That, if you click on it, will display more modules. Bit of a surprise, that. A final comment on actually creating the instance of the game. Take the opportunity of checking for any messages when the creation process finishes. It's always worth quickly checking them in case there's been a problem. In this case, there actually was one warning message. We'll deal with this in a later video. That's the end of the deep dive. The next video will cover the base configuration changes that I make to a module before starting to customize it. Thank you for watching Grat's Guide to Anything.